across to him on the left.
I think we should just concentrate on getting the best getaway, going straight.
Yeah.
If there's chance,
Figure it out.
yeah, if there's chance, then we can.
All right, the time has come. Here we go. Let's join Alex Jakes and David Coulthard in commentary for race 7 of the 2021 season. Here comes the French Grand Prix.
Thank you, Steve. For all the talk of football coming home, it's motor racing which returns to its origins. From the city-to-city contest of the 19th century to the first ever Grand Prix of 1906, France has always adored motorsport, and today sees the return of its Grand Prix. Max Verstappen leading the field away onto the formation lap for only the 5th time in his career. And a surprise pole sitter. The thoughts coming into this weekend was that it would be Mercedes territory. It has not proved so far to be the case. Here's the predicted pit stop strategy. The fastest is to go from the medium to the hard tyre. The second fastest, hard to the medium. But of course the top 10 find themselves on that medium tyre. Further back, you've got to look to Esteban Ocon, Sebastian Vettel and Antonio Giovinazzi to find the first of the runners on the hard rubber. David, there are so many different things that the drivers have to deal with. What do you think is going to separate Verstappen and Hamilton in today's contest?
Launch. It's all going to be about that run down to the first corner. It's a long run as well, and we've seen that it has been incident prone in the past, and well, it invites the drivers to run side by side. It is a very early apex, but it's a long run into that what is a very open chicane. You can see in the distance there, so doesn't stop there though, does it, Alex? It runs down into this next section down at 3 and 4, and we've seen further incident there. So I think that Max will definitely have his mirrors full of Mercedes when he runs down to turn 1.
So they're all on at the front of the field. The yellow-walled medium tyre. Max Verstappen with a 4-point advantage in the Drivers' Championship. The Constructors' Championship standings for you on the left-hand side, as Verstappen brings the field to the lights. The track temperature way down compared to when they did their race simulations on Friday. It's a 37-degree track temperature. Air temperature is 25 degrees. There was talk of rain, but only before the start. It hasn't arrived, and it is a dry race then in Le Castellet, which Max Verstappen will be delighted about, I imagine, given that he was able to get ahead of both Mercedes. So Christian Horner looking on nervously as Verstappen brings the cars to the start line. It's Verstappen versus Hamilton at round 7 of the World Championship. The French Grand Prix is next. Green flag at the back. You know what that means. Here come the lights. Lights out for the French Grand Prix. Good reaction time for Lewis Hamilton, who's going to put pressure on Max Verstappen into the first turn. He's immediately ducked into the slipstream. It's a poor getaway for Sergio Perez, who might be about to be passed. No, he's going to hang on around the outside as Verstappen's off the road, and that's going to give the lead to Lewis Hamilton, who sweeps by and takes first place. Verstappen deep into turn number 1, and Hamilton takes advantage with Bottas now applying pressure. Perez did manage to hang on to 4th place, but Verstappen got the launch he needed. He didn't manage to make the apex of turn 1 though. There's a hass off in the background as they all try to make it through. Advantage Hamilton at the front of the field.
We knew it was going to be about that first corner. It just didn't look like once they hit the brakes that it was going to be a mistake from Max, but as he's loaded the car up through the apex, he's obviously lost adhesion and had to open the steering. So Hamilton will be licking his lips.
He's up a place. Fernando Alonso has gained 2 positions. He's up to 7th and around the outside. That's a nice move for Charles Leclerc, who tries to fight back and does fight back into the North Chicane. But Hamilton, after a difficult couple of races, has the jump. Still these two battle as they go to senior corner for the first time, with the Alpine unable to fight back against the Ferrari. And so it's just 1 position gain for Alonso, who is now having to defend for Daniel Ricciardo, who's got the jump on Lando Norris. Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, the top 3.
First lap has even completed, but the strategists will be crunching the numbers. Completely turned the complexion of this racetrack and this race around. Now Verstappen has got to work out. He's got underlying race pace advantage, but that will be neutralised running in the dirty air.
Oh, Lewis Hamilton lighting up the rear tyres as he comes across the line. He checks the mirrors to see where Verstappen is, and crucially, he is in those mirrors. 1.4 seconds the advantage as we start lap number 2, and still Alonso and the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc separated by hardly anything. No momentum though, as going deep off the road, Lando Norris trying to get past his teammate. He won't do it legally, at least not that time. So holding position further back, Charles Leclerc in 7th, having passed Alonso at the North Chicane on lap number 1. Then Ricciardo staying ahead of Lando Norris.
Yeah, she's also
1.4 behind.
No grip out here.
Yeah, no grip out there. You know, he's certainly finding a bit more grip than the others though. Managed to open up that 1 second lead. Gets him out of DRS once that activates, and just coming back on Lando, he's obviously had a tardy getaway to find himself behind his teammate.
More moves further back. We're looking at Sebastian Vettel trying to go around the outside of Esteban Ocon. He sweeps in. That's a tidy move for 11th place. Ocon with a brand new contract to extend all the way to 2024, but he couldn't hang on to 11th place. And Vettel, after an encouraging podium before, can he stay ahead? Ocon chancing it into the 10th turn, but he didn't have enough momentum.
Yeah, let's be absolutely fair with Sebastian. That was a brilliant move around the outside, breaking into the chicane in the back straight, turn 8, and that, you know, just seems that in the last couple of races he's rediscovering his mojo. Racing was never really his big strength when he was winning those world titles. He tended to just be blindingly quick in quali and then controlled it beautifully out front, but that was brave and aggressive.
His teammate Lance Stroll has made 4 places. He's up to 15th position as Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:39.6, to try and claw back that advantage for Hamilton, but it is tough to follow in that 3rd and final sector. Vettel with a good move to underline the straight line speed of that Mercedes power unit, and further back Yuki Tsunoda is up 3 places. George Russell down 4 after this race start.
Well, you saw Hamilton hooked it up pretty well initially, but then had to come across into the slipstream of Verstappen. Verstappen running down the left side as long as possible, launches into the apex, and see that little loss of rear grip. He has to correct, open the steering, and that's enough to take him wide. And then Hamilton is like, okay, good. That was an important one psychologically for Hamilton, because he's lost out at the race starts normally wheel to wheel with Verstappen, but not today. Yeah, nice and tidy, not too much wheel spin. You see him glancing in the mirror, looking, where's Hamilton, right, I'm safe to come back towards the apex. Oh, oversteer, no, and then avoids the cones.
And you see the message on the team radio: I couldn't keep the car under control, so I couldn't turn to the right. He avoided the bollard, but he also avoided hanging on and converting that pole into the race lead. This is what it looked like from Lewis's point of view.
Yeah, it looked beautiful. It was like the parting of the ocean. Nothing quite like your competitor driving off track. And then that's how it looks from Red Bull's point of view. Frustration, but it's a long race.
He's on board with Daniel Ricciardo, who was able to get past his teammate.
Yeah, he's going to do him around outside on the brakes. That's why it's important to do track walks. You see how Daniel used the red and white curb on the right-hand side, which is really just painted. He's effectively half the car off the track. And then when it came to the wheel-to-wheel battle of the two of them down, that was Lando trying to come back at Daniel and then having to go down the escape road.
great job. Anything is possible.
Was the best result since Alpine returned to the Alpine lane appeared in Formula 1. You heard on the radio Bottas getting a bit of encouragement there. His fastest lap last time around brought him to within DRS range of second place Max Verstappen.
Yeah, there's an opportunity for Valtteri. Whilst Lewis controls the pace out front, Max will not want to get too close and start risking overheating his tyres, brakes and the likes, unless he thinks he can have a go. But as we already know from previous races here, it's not the easiest circuit to actually go wheel to wheel and race against. You need a massive offset in lap time between the two cars for that to be effective. So this is it's been a strong weekend all in for Bottas, and it's definitely a stronger race start than we'd normally see from him. He normally takes several laps to sort of find his pace, and it's in the second half of the race that he's more often able to match Hamilton, but the damage tends to get done on the first stage. But we know from talking to Toto, career at Mercedes effectively hangs in the balance and is in his hands. I don't think George Russell needs to do any more to show that he's capable of stepping up. So it's a case for Bottas to show that he's irreplaceable.
Coming off the back of such a difficult weekend, he wasn't able to score. Mercedes' first non-score in 3 years as they try to bounce back. Good momentum for Daniel Ricciardo, but no opportunity to use it on the brakes against Fernando Alonso, who still hangs on to 8th position, trying to remain in the points once again. He knows who his teammate's going to be.
Tires are getting hot.
Right, this is a fun part, I think, Alex. Is he telling porky pies? I'm not suggesting Lewis is a liar. Is he being strategic in giving misinformation? Because he'll know that radio transmission's going out. So is that to give sort of false hope to Red Bull and for them to say to Max, oh, Lewis's tyres are getting hot, and then Max starts to push and overheats his tyres? Or is it genuine?
Well, the kidology on the radio, we heard Hamilton say before the restart in Baku, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We saw what happened there. So always just trying to use every single weapon in the armoury to try and fool the other team. It is a fantastic battle this year for the World Championship, but it is key. It is a key team battle between Mercedes and Red Bull, and the strategists are going to earn their money today as the top 8 remain as they were, despite the best efforts of Daniel Ricciardo.
I think it's a great analogy. You know, Hamilton's armoury is a full one, and he deploys all of his weapons to win all those World Championships, but he hasn't actually come up against someone that is his equal. I think Max is equally well stocked in the armoury department. So when you see a few battles and a few weapons deployed during the course of this racing season.
On board once again with McLaren of Ricciardo, who is looking the most likely to improve his position. Can't get close. Every lap that he runs in the dirty air is going to be an issue. Behind, though, looks like Lance Stroll has been able to do what Ricciardo can't at the moment and clear Kimi Raikkonen. That's his 5th position gained after going out of Q1 for the 2nd race weekend in a row. So the Aston Martin improving up to 14th position further back. That's the only change that we've seen for a while as we inch closer to the pit stop window. And we've had a few changes, haven't we? We've got more tests on the rear wings. We've got the tyre pressure rules have changed as well. A few speculating that could affect Red Bull more than Mercedes. But Max Verstappen able to stay with Lewis Hamilton at the moment. That gap has not gone above 2 seconds since the start of the race.
Yeah, and I think that as we look towards the pit stop window, it is actually quite a spread field. It's a much more evenly spread field than would be normally the case. There's no real window looking like it's going to open up. So I think we're just going to have to accept that the strategists are going to have to pit their drivers and hope that they can, be around other cars that are not going to affect their lap time. So what are the options for Verstappen? Once we get closer to the pit stop, then he can go for an undercut, which is the fact coming in, putting new tyres on, unleashing everything that he's able to deliver, and hope that the lap time gain is enough to gain track position over Hamilton. But of course Hamilton and his team are wise to that, and with a 1.2 second gap, if he can keep opening that up ever so marginally, if he can get it over 2 seconds, then that gives him a bit of a breathing space.
Great on the front.
So complaints for Hamilton on the radio about the front tyres. Fernando Alonso has also been complaining on the radio to his engineer that the tyres are going away. Daniel Ricciardo just getting close on the Mistral straight and then not being able to do anything with that straight line speed. Hamilton got the gap out very nearly to 2 seconds now as he seeks his third straight win at this circuit. We didn't have the race here in 2020, but in 2018 and 2019, this was the driver to beat.
Lewis reporting raining on the front.
Yeah, for me also starting a tiny bit now, but still not affecting the grip yet.
So the two Mercedes about the same with their tyre degradation. Bottas just hanging back, having got within that 1 second margin. He's just dropped back, thinking about preserving the tyres. Still a way to go. And as David pointed out, they do not have a clear and obvious gap to drop these cars into at the moment. They would come out between the two McLarens if they were to pit and everything went to plan at this stage.
You see how calm Valtteri's voice is, he's giving the feedback. That's, you know, to try and put our viewers in the cockpit. When you're running 8 seconds a lap slower than what you were able to experience in qualifying, that's like a, you know, Sunday drive. It's a country mile. It's 8 seconds. Let's keep it accurately what it is. It just gives them so much more capacity. As the pass eventually happens, DRS chucks it down the inside into the chicane, turn 8.
Daniel Ricciardo finding a way through. That has been coming lap after lap after lap. He's managed to get close and finally get ahead of the Alpine. So a lot more pace, and now McLaren will get a read of what their car is actually capable of as Lando Norris follows his teammate through absolutely immediately. The two McLarens improving to 8th and 9th.
Yeah, I think Lando was definitely well hooked up to pick up the slipstream, carry more speed. It looked to me like Alonso had to lift through Senior, and Alpine using its tyres a little bit more aggressively. And Lando, cat-like reaction, saw the gap and was right in there.
So overtaking, developing. Now we've got a tyre compound offset here between Fernando Alonso, struggling on the mediums, and Sebastian Vettel, who started in 12th position, has improved 1 place, has the more durable hard tyres on. And he started this race along with Antonio Giovinazzi and Esteban Ocon on that tyre. And the next 2 cars behind Vettel. This is the pass once again. This is how Ricciardo improved up to 8th place.
Yeah, DRS worked for him at that time, and had to still do the hard bit on the brakes, but the momentum carried him into that gap. And then Lando, it looked to me like Fernando lifted there. You see, and also you see the red light flashing. That's him no longer deploying any electrical energy. And maybe Fernando slightly caught out by, you know, they can adjust where around the racetrack they can actually deploy their energy. And you probably didn't expect Lando to carry so much speed. And, you know, you've got sight of what your competitor's doing when the red light comes on.
Sainz being told a lot more degradation than anyone anticipated. We'll go side by side here because we're seeing The momentum for the Aston Martin, pulling out of the slipstream and taking a position in the points on the hard tyres. So those who started on the hard tyres with more degradation than expected on the mediums, that's working for them. And George Russell nipping past his teammate for 17th place in the background. Vettel improves to 10th, Russell improves to 17th.
I think everyone is struggling, so yeah, think about.
Yeah, copy that. Even graining spotted on the hard runners as well.
Yeah, plan B.
In comes Charles Leclerc. He's been struggling with the medium rubber, and now the structures have to react. The conditions vastly different, a lot cooler on track than we're used to when we've raced here before in Formula One at the French Grand Prix. And you can see the state of those medium tyres coming off the Ferrari, not in good condition at all.
No, they were well tired, and a set of hards have gone on brand new. And this will give crucial information not only to Ferrari for Carlos Sainz, but all the competitors. The engineers, the data analysts will be able to analyse the lap times that Ferrari were running and then very quickly see what the offset in performance, the increase in performance, now he's changed to a fresh set of tyres, and that gives you insight to what the undercut might be worth.
It's a three-car battle for the lead of the race, evenly split between Hamilton, Verstappen and Bottas. Perez cannot really live with the pace of the top three.
Well done, mate. Next one is Gasly. Gasly car ahead.
And that is the sound of a driver who finally has a balance that he's happy with, and he can start putting some of these traditional Daniel Ricciardo overtakes. As you can see, as it stands, McLaren, Mercedes up a couple of points, but of course Charles Leclerc has made his stop there, so that picture will change. Further down the order as well, Russell has got past Nicholas Latifi, and he's aiming next up at Yuki Tsunoda. Lap 16 of 53, Daniel Ricciardo finally with a car to attack in 2021.
So keep pushing hard and try to avoid curbs on the front left.
So Bottas, who set the fastest lap of the race earlier on, being warned about the curbs. It's going to be a long journey back through the field now for Charles Leclerc, getting past Nikita Mazepin.
Bring it. Daniel, box to overtake Gasly. Box to overtake Gasly.
Here are Mercedes in the pit lane for Valtteri Bottas, first of all. You heard him being told to push. This is why he's in to change tyres first.
Verstappen might need to and be forced into having to defend against this. So we'll find out next time around if Verstappen heads to the pits. That's a reaction to Bottas. Ferrari moving out into the pit lane as well. That'll be for Sainz.
Our lap will be critical.
Yeah, well, that's the information telling him he's got to nail a lap if he wants to try and get the jump on Verstappen. It's getting busy in the pit lane.
It is. In comes Sainz, in comes Gasly, trying to cover off Daniel Ricciardo. They're keeping Norris out there. Vettel is on the hard tyre. Norris is on the medium. This is so important. Where will Charles Leclerc and Daniel Ricciardo be by the time that these two, who came in, were Sainz ahead of Gasly? So there go the Williams, there goes Charles Leclerc, who pitted earliest for the rubber, and there goes Daniel Ricciardo, not only past Pierre Gasly, who he's targeting, but also past the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. So that strategy working out perfectly for McLaren. They've executed exactly what they were aiming for, and this is by far Daniel Ricciardo's strongest day in the orange colours of McLaren.
That's a beautiful display of teamwork. The driver gets presented a car, but I just think the pit stops are such a wonderful opportunity for the men and women of the race team to show their skills under pressure. Is Max going to react this time?
He is indeed. He's into the pits. Max Verstappen pits from second place, trying to cover off Bottas, more than put pressure on Lewis Hamilton. Red Bull have given Max Verstappen the 5 fastest pit stops in Formula One this season. It was another quick one, 2.3, not usually at the rapid pace, but can he keep the Finnish driver behind?
So it's hammer time. Verstappen in the pits.
Yeah, Bottas has just come out of the final corner. When you see him in the distance there, so Red Bull had to react. Bottas hasn't quite done enough, but you can see he's closed the gap. Now Verstappen has to nail this lap, and we'll see Hamilton come in the next.
So Hamilton will react, and a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of Mercedes, who haven't had the cleanest pit stops in the last few races. Fernando Alonso struggled on those medium tyres, lost a couple of positions, had to wait though, lighting up the rear tyres before the car had dropped down off the jack there, ready to get back into the contest. So Charles Leclerc pitting early and getting track position as a result. Then it's Ricciardo, Sainz, Gasly, and now Alonso coming out behind all those, as he was when he came into the pits. So Hamilton expected to pit at the end of this one. Let's hear from him.
Am I using all up, or are we coming in?
We're coming in. Use it all. Got to come in. So box.
And And riding on board, it certainly looks like he has used all of the rubber there. Not much left to the front left.
No, and has to nail perfectly, slowing down to the pit limiter. Feels also slow for the drivers coming in through the chicane into the pit lane, but he's got a clear run into his box.
Exactly what Mercedes were looking for. The race leader in position to maintain things. That's Sergio Perez, who's going through to take the race lead, but he has yet to stop. Hamilton should cover off Max Verstappen. As we look back on the pit straight, there is the Mercedes on the left-hand side, and we still can't see the Navy Red Bull. He's got a lot of momentum. It's going to be closer maybe than we thought. Verstappen's been giving it everything. Verstappen's going to find a way by, and he's leapfrogged ahead. Max Verstappen, with the fastest final sector of the race so far, came alive in the final third of that last lap, and out of nowhere, he's managed to spring past Lewis Hamilton. He gave it everything, and he's leapt ahead. That is for the net race lead later on.
I am as surprised as you, Alex, what that shows. Verstappen's been dummying Mercedes. He hasn't been running his true pace. To deliver that lap time on new tyres has caught us all by surprise.
Didn't have it until the final sector when that's where he's been so impressive. That's where the difference was yesterday in qualifying, the second and third sectors. And Max Verstappen, this initial pit stop run started by Bottas coming in and trying to cover off Verstappen, Mercedes losing the net race lead, Hamilton down to second place. And that is a huge development in the French Grand Prix.
Yeah, this is sport takes you on a roller coaster.
Not sure what happened there, mate.
Well, you got overtaken. That's what happened. There was nothing particularly wrong with the Mercedes pit stop. It was very similar, as far as I recall, to the Red Bull stop. It was just Verstappen's outlap on fresh tyres was exceptional.
So no one really struggling with tyre warm-up in a way that you might expect, like we have seen in previous races. That's not so much of an issue here. But as you say, I think you're onto something, David. I think Red Bull were not showing their true pace because Verstappen able to find an outlap which has caught the World Championship team, winning team for the last 6 years in a row, completely by surprise. The pace in the final sector, absolutely electric. You're looking at what will be the top three in the French Grand Prix. Bit of a lock-up for Valtteri Bottas in turn 5, where the front is momentarily up in the air thanks to a colossal bump on the entrance, I should say, of that corner. And now, when the tyres are all in the window, can Verstappen do what he couldn't do through turn 1 and keep the lead of this Grand Prix?
Hamilton's hustling. He knows he's got to try and do something while the tyres are fresh. This race is on.
And so interesting between these two across the course of the weekend. They're taking different racing lines. You saw it at the North Chicane a moment ago. It looks like Lewis Hamilton's gone deep, but because he's running more downforce in that Mercedes, he takes a different line. They're using different parts of the racetrack. The top two in the World Championship really treating us this year to some sensational driving. We've seen them go wheel to wheel before already this year. Are we about to see it again? This is a racetrack where it is so difficult to keep close in this specific part, with the tyre temperature increasing all the time. But Hamilton, frustrated to have lost track position, offering everything he's got right now, and he's bringing Bottas along with him.
Yeah, Hamilton is definitely hustling, trying to, well, he's in the DRS zone, but he's just trying to apply the pressure, see if he can get Verstappen to crack.
Hello. 0.9 and mode 7, please, Max. All right, calm yourself down.
I just want to know my gap, mate, so I know when to defend or not.
And how intense is it in Formula One this year at the front? How have you ever heard Max Verstappen that intense on the radio this year?
You're going to have to translate for me. I didn't really catch much of it, but he's definitely agitated about something.
He wanted to know the gaps when he needed to defend and when he didn't need to pull over from the traditional racing line. We've seen the marbles discarded, and he wanted to know where Hamilton is.
Just keep the pressure on, Lewis. You can do this.
He's doing that. I feel the pressure, and I'm in the box.
What a brilliant Formula One season we are having. at a racetrack where it is difficult to overtake. Hamilton refusing to look after the tyres and wait for later on. He's putting the pressure on the shoulders of the Red Bull driver, having seen a minor error earlier on, which cost him the lead of the race. He's trying to force another one now from the driver, trying to win a third race for the team, trying to win a third race in a row. And Max Verstappen trying to bounce back after the disappointment of that tyre failure back in Baku. Daniel Ricciardo putting pressure on Kimi Raikkonen. Charles Leclerc has managed to get past a few moments ago. Here comes the McLaren driver. These two, last time we raced here, were side by side at this very corner. And has Ricciardo got the momentum side by side at 200 miles an hour? And Raikkonen keeps the position for now.
I think if I was Mercedes, I'd be inclined to give Valtteri, put him as a sacrificial racer and say, right, okay, we might have to pit him again if he burns these tyres, but just to apply pressure on Verstappen and allow Hamilton to preserve his tyres and then, cement the fact that he was going to be on one stop.
It's the team tactics that didn't work. Mercedes potentially underestimating the undercut. Verstappen potentially happier on the hard tyre. Whatever, it was a huge shock to see the position switch. And Hamilton has now dropped back, surely having to look after those tyre temperatures which go through the roof in the third and final sector of this racetrack. Daniel Ricciardo has finally got past Kimi Raikkonen after running side by side at some speed through turn 10.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if Hamilton's having to drop back, then let Bottas go, let him apply pressure and then make Verstappen have to defend. And then, when he eventually burns his tyres out, you've got Hamilton there, can come back at him again. You're not just going to overtake easily here. You're going to have to push your competitor into a mistake or hope that they run out of rubber.
And also, from a tactical point of view, they are not too far away now from Perez, who finds himself still in the lead, having not stopped. Daniel Ricciardo, who tried to get past at turn 10, by the time he got to turn 1, wasn't going to think twice. And that's one driver with new hard tyres against the driver with old hard tyres, and a position gained for the Australian. Back in DRS range after a lap to cool the Pirelli rubber. David suggested different tactics for Mercedes. They'll be looking at it, but they haven't gone for it yet.
We're enjoying this, Valtteri. Keep going.
The Bottas form that we're used to seeing has returned after he was all at sea in Baku, and he's been given that encouragement on the radio to stay with the top two in this race when they do eventually see Perez come in and take on a new set of tyres, which he will have to, but this is traditional Perez stuff, isn't it? Send him long into the Grand Prix, give Red Bull a strategic option. He didn't have the ultimate pace of these three today. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton doing everything he can to force a mistake out of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, he's coming back again, isn't he? And whilst we wait to see if he can sustain that pressure. I was fascinated with the origins of the various expressions we use in English. That one you just said, all at sea. Well, if you're Ellen MacArthur, that's a wonderful place to be. So what does it actually mean?
No phrase is safe when you're analysing in the box. Not just team tactics, not just Formula One analysis, but we'll get to the bottom of it by the end of the year. Charles Leclerc is going to take another place and move up to 9th position. Went to those hard tyres earlier on, so joy on track for the Monaco House driver at this stage. He might suffer having gone so soon to that hard tyre in the latter stages. Into the pits from the lead, Sergio Perez, and now Max Verstappen takes over first place with Hamilton 0.4 of a second away, using the effect of the DRS to close right in. Can he stay close? Where is Perez going to come out in relationship to everyone else? Here is Norris pitting as well, so Norris won't go past.
No, he's going to be very comfortably in 4th place. We've got Vettel just coming out of the last corner, and he's yet to pit.
So Norris changes the rubber, gets back out. Norris, who was up against Leclerc and Ricciardo, Sainz and Gasly earlier on. Long stints for both Vettel and Stroll, who are happy on that hard rubber, just as they were before events unfolded in Azerbaijan a couple of weeks ago. And Hamilton still within 0.6 of a second. No DRS for this part of the Mistral Straight, though, as they head to senior corner. And Hamilton is having breather laps, isn't he? He's taking a step back and then he's going again, applying the pressure, looking for the error, looking to try and find a way by, and Bottas there to take advantage if there's any drama ahead of him as well.
Nice.
Norris trying to make the move around the outside. Lando Norris gets it done and powers past Gasly. Is he able to hang back? No! And he gets a chance to inspect the curb there. They're both getting in each other's way. And somehow it's Gasly ahead of Norris. And back on the radio, Max Verstappen saying he can't keep this pace up to the end of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that's a sincere statement rather than a sort of play with Mercedes. He knows that if he keeps going like that, they're going to run out of tyres. In terms of tyre life, the hard, prediction was they could comfortably on for 45 laps. So it's not about the actual tyre wear.
Sainz able to get past Charles Leclerc. Going early to that hard rubber has not worked. And you heard from Fernando Alonso earlier on saying plan B. We might have to have plan B given how much that Ferrari is suffering on the hardest compound of tyre. Ocon and Giovinazzi are going to get rid of the hard tyres. They started this Grand Prix.
It's almost like the Aston Martin drivers, Vettel and Stroll in 5th and 6th, are scared to change tyres. They've stayed out so long.
They're able, like we saw in Azerbaijan, to make it work in a way that others aren't. On board once again with Lando Norris, trying to get past Pierre Gasly, the more traditional part of the racetrack. He's got the momentum now, and he's going to get the position. Through goes the McLaren. Lando Norris back into the points, up to 10th.
Yeah, it was a nice move. You had the AlphaTauri had the toe off the back of the Ferrari, so it wasn't an easy one for him to do. It looks like he's made it stick this time.
The only driver to score in every Grand Prix so far this year finds himself back into the points. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, Lewis, Verstappen doesn't think these tyres will last to the end if you keep this pressure on.
I agree. Let's make sure we undercut them this time.
Brilliant bit of insight. Looks like we might have another stop.
Certainly going to have another stop for Charles Leclerc. He's got no tyres left at this stage of the Grand Prix. Not even a contest for Norris to get by. And what every team in the pit lane expected to be a one-stop race, with the cooler conditions completely changing the complexion of the contest out there. Gasly's going to try and get past the monogas driver that he battled past to take a place on the podium. Right now it's just to improve to 10th. But we're seeing passing where we didn't expect, and degradation with the hardest compound that no one saw coming.
Right, let's try and understand then, if we think we are now into a two-stop Grand Prix as we go on board with Lando, and that was had to open the steering. It's down at the end of the horseshoe, turn 11.
He forced me off. What's this idiot doing? He even went off himself.
Yeah, a single-minded view of a racing driver. It would have been exactly the same thing being said if that was Gasly, who had just been overtaken. It's good stuff. It was all clean and fair, and the race stewards feel that no further action is necessary, which is good to see. And in the end, Norris able to make it stick.
At 31 of 53, we're looking at a second stop here due to the unusually high tyre degradation. The middle compounds of the Pirelli range. Verstappen and Hamilton separated by 1.7 seconds on track, but in agreement that they need to stop again. Verstappen doesn't think he can keep the pace up he was at, and Hamilton absolutely desperate to reclaim the position that he lost at the stops. Bottas has also reported on the radio that he's thinking of plan B. David, there's an opportunity here for Mercedes that Red Bull don't have. Mercedes can split strategies.
They can indeed. They've got both the drivers up there, so Bottas doing exactly what he needs to do if he's going to stand any chance of continuing with the team into next season. Perez some way short in this race. He's full 18 seconds behind Verstappen. So off the back of the confidence-boosting victory in Baku, it's certainly not one of his stronger racetracks.
Race control, confirmation on screen that they didn't think there was anything in that moment, with Gasly momentarily forcing Norris off the road, but it wasn't deliberate. He didn't have control of the car himself. Now, Norris in the wheel tracks, not for much longer, getting past his old teammate. And he gets past Carlos Sainz up to 8th place. Next car up the road, Daniel Ricciardo, a couple of seconds away.
push any more than this, there's no chance to get to the end with these tires.
Let's go on board with Fernando Alonso, another driver getting past Charles Leclerc, running a new crash helmet design for this race that looks pretty similar to Fernando Alonso's old one. Either way, having made his stop, Alonso able to take that place. Now, here we go into the pits for Verstappen.
Hit confirm, please, Max. Box, hit confirm.
So they willingly give up the race lead, but they've decided that this is the right way to go. They want the new rubber first. On goes the medium, and Max Verstappen gives up track position to get fresh rubber. When will Mercedes respond, and will they respond with both cars?
It wasn't a brand new set, so they've got a race cure on them with another car just going out the pit lane in front of him. So he'll want to try and clear that. Is that a Haas?
Yeah, Nikita Mazepin ahead.
Like Max needs to drill this lap just in case Mercedes responds. But if I was Mercedes, I'd be inclined to pit one and leave the other. Then you've covered the bases.
Interesting to see whether James Vowles, the chief strategist for Mercedes, agrees.
And Lewis got 21 laps remaining. Let us know what you think.
This left front's already messed up.
So Hamilton wanted that undercut, so that is why Red Bull have gone early. He's got a clear track where he's won 2 times before. Fascinating strategic battle at the French Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the team are effectively handing strategic decision, final call, to Hamilton.
As we inspect the state of his tyres at the moment.
Well, the wheels on the car are going round and round, so that's a good sign. But what does he feel? Is there enough grip there? Verstappen cleared Mazepin, and it probably didn't cost him too much time.
Lando Norris has caught his teammate in the battle for 7th place. And the Aston Martins are still yet to stop, so they're still running the old tyres ahead. And Lando Norris has got the run here, and Lando Norris, once again, is the lead McLaren in a Grand Prix. He's fought his way past Daniel Ricciardo up to 7th.
Yeah, that's an important psychological one, isn't it, in that inter-team battle. Daniel now getting used to looking at the back of Norris's car.
My rears are good, just my left front.
So Hamilton happy with the rear tyres. Looking at that left front, we saw with the medium tyre that heavily worn by the time he got rid of it earlier on in the race where he lost track position. You can see that Verstappen at the moment is comfortably inside the window, so the new rubber means that if Hamilton was to pit at the moment, he would come out behind Verstappen.
It's all going to come down to lap time, and we're going to find out in about half a lap's time exactly what the time offset is between Verstappen and Hamilton, and then we get into the game of trying to work out, is there enough laps left for Verstappen to come back at him. Getting back at him is one thing, but if they decide to leave both Mercedes out, then they've got a rear gunner in Bottas who can make his car quite wide.
Whether that will be the call. Hamilton saying that he's okay with the rear tyres at this point. Will they decide to keep track position? Will Verstappen have to go on the attack? He's 2 seconds behind his teammate. Another position gained for Lando Norris, who's made a stop. Lance Stroll has not in the race so far, so new hard tyres getting past old hard tyres, and Norris taking 6th place on another strong day for the British driver. Yeah, Gasly closing in on Carlos Sainz now. He's 0.3 of a second away, hasn't made use of the first DRS zone around the racetrack.
So here we've got the information, 36.7 for Verstappen. That's a full 2 seconds quicker than Hamilton. or 1.9 if you want to be really picky about it, but that gives us the indication that Verstappen has the pace to come back at Hamilton. Now Mercedes are backing themselves into a corner, because the longer they stay out before putting new tyres, it just means, or fresh tyres, it means the gap that they'll be behind Verstappen is just going to be bigger and bigger. So they've either got to bite it now and accept that they're coming from behind again, or just watch that gap drop all the way towards the end of this Grand Prix.
Another long stint in the race for Lance Stroll, who finally comes in to make his stop. That promotes Ricciardo to 7th, Sainz to 8th, Gasly to 9th, and Alonso to the final point at the moment. Vettel still to make that change.
Verstappen's got Perez within his sights. That'll be giving a slipstream. Don't expect Perez to be difficult, and as I say that, he's moved out of the way at the horseshoe. Now Max has a completely clear track ahead to Bottas, and then Hamilton has just overtaken Raikkonen and lapping him, so he's got a clear run at him and continues to run, well, considerably quicker each lap.
Thank you for that.
So Verstappen grateful that his teammate did not fight, and saying so on the radio as well. So Verstappen has the tyres underneath him to make up the time. There's the fastest lap to prove it.
Yeah, the race is on.
Gasly lining up. Sainz still hasn't managed to clear the Ferrari. He's able to stay super close here to Lavosset. But by the time he gets to the end of the horseshoe-shaped corner, he's still not able to put any pressure on. So Sainz, not with the tyres that he would want at this stage, but with track position in 8th.
Yeah, at this rate, Verstappen's going to be on the back of Bottas in 7 laps. So this is going to get interesting.
So you expected to catch me at any stage?
Copy, Lewis. Depends on how easy it is for him to get through Valtteri.
Gasly finally gets past, up to 8th. That one's been coming for plenty of laps, and he goes for it. So can Verstappen keep the performance in these tyres? At the moment, he's comfortably got the lap time to close up to the back of the 2 Mercedes. Are Mercedes keeping anything in reserve?
Yeah, apologies, Max. Your radio's still poor. No, didn't copy. See if you can move your microphone at the next available opportunity.
Verstappen's picking up, catching up quicker.
Yeah, copy. Have to see how everyone's tyres drop off.
No. Radio to 4 max.
How's this pace? Can't hear you, man.
36.
Hamilton's just done his personal best lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:37.4. Max Verstappen about 0.4 of a second faster, but he's got to get through Valtteri Bottas. So once again in Formula One 2021, we're going to go right to the end with this one fully in the balance. Mercedes holding the cards, holding the track position, but Verstappen with the comfortably faster car at the moment. Hamilton saved those tyres, now he's beginning to push.
Yeah, normally to have, let's say, a straightforward pass, you need an offset in lap time of more than a second a lap. On some tracks, it's up to 2 seconds a lap to easily predict an overtake. Well, that window has closed now. Verstappen is quicker, just gone purple in the first sector. He'll continue to come up onto the back of Bottas. But is that going to be enough life in his tyres to get the overtake done? How wide can Bottas make his car?
Bottas fighting for his Formula One future with Mercedes. What a day to make yourself useful for the team if you can keep him behind. Hamilton to score a tactical victory, which would be such a shot in the arm for the entire Mercedes team after their first non-score in 3 years, last time out. You see the forecast at the bottom of your picture, 7 laps. The information is, remember, Lewis Hamilton's a master of making the rubber last.
So Verstappen is dropping off that tyre a little bit. It'll be the last 3 or 4 laps that are painful ones.
How about Valtteri?
Yeah, Valtteri 38.0. Gap to him 2.8.
Does he have vibrations?
No vibrations to worry about. We're happy with you at the moment.
Yeah, well, vibrations aren't an issue as long as they're good vibrations. I didn't even attempt to break into full song.
I wanted the full cover version, David.
Maybe off air.
Maybe later on. It's fine margins, it's in the balance. Here's Lewis Hamilton on the radio.
The tyre's not feeling great.
Okay, copy.
So you can pick up vibrations from small under rotations, but we haven't seen any lockups from Hamilton, but just in the wear pattern, just when the rubber, sort of grates across the tyre to the outer edge, and that's where you see it gets thrown off in these marbles that we see off the racing line. That can put the wheels and tyres out of balance, and that can be, you know, uncomfortable for the driver.
There's the graphic on the left-hand side to tell you the story of the race so far. Mercedes committing to a one-stop strategy against all expectations. It's become a two-stop race for the optimum pit stop strategy, and Verstappen on fresher tyres trying to close down the gap. Barcelona in reverse.
The last 4 laps will be very difficult. So Verstappen 8-lap all medium now.
Yeah, I have no fronts anymore, so it is difficult.
Yeah, Valtteri declaring he's going to have limited opportunity to really do any hard defending. Interestingly, Leclerc, who came out on another set of tyres, fresh set of rubber, comfortably sort of running at the pace of the Mercs right now. It shows you that the Mercs are compromised on that tyre.
On board with Max Verstappen.
You know, it must be uncomfortable. Put yourself in the cockpit of Valtteri Bottas. You're running on old tyres, lacking front, and you've got Verstappen hunting you down. You know that the hopes of the team rest on your shoulders.
You're trying to keep your place in Formula One's most successful team of the last few years. On the Mistral Straight, Max Verstappen closing in on Mercedes, as he has been since he went to that old set of medium tyres. The compound advantage is sizable, degrading hards up against newer mediums, and Verstappen now getting within 1.7 seconds.
And Perez predicted to catch it in the last 4 laps.
Bottas being told, as his pace is really dropping off now. Last time around it was a 1:38.7 for Bottas, that also Perez is a risk. And if ever you wanted a driver out there to make a tyre last, guess who?
Yeah, Checo Perez. Quite interesting though, the engineer giving the driver the information that it's almost like the engineers accepted that Verstappen's getting past Bottas. Instead of saying, okay, you've got to get your elbows out for Verstappen, he's giving them the bigger picture, which is assuming Verstappen gets by you, you're going to have Perez all over you.
Assuming this one goes to plan, and it's been a bit of a confusing day so far, from plan A to plan B. Are you surprised, David, that they did not split the strategy at Mercedes, given they had the opportunity to?
100%, especially when you've got Bottas is a sacrificial player in this World Championship right now. He's had his worst start in all the time he's been at Mercedes. He's in 6th in the Drivers' Championship. Hamilton or nothing in terms of winning the Drivers this year.
Mercedes did not go in that direction. Max Verstappen has caught Valtteri Bottas. He is very nearly in DRS. He is in DRS range. 2 zones available on this racetrack. Here's the battle as they go up. You can see that Bottas has approached what we used to call the cliff, where there is absolutely no tyre performance left last time around. Max Verstappen did a 1:36.8. Valtteri Bottas did a 1:38.2. That's the difference between going for a 2-stop and staying out there on the hard rubber. And Bottas, he might try and offer a few defensive shapes, but realistically there's going to be nothing much he can do. Mercedes will hope otherwise, but Verstappen is closing in on Mercedes number 1.
Yeah, you see the front right marking.
What time do I need to do?
It'll just be about having the tyres to race in.
Yeah, they've resigned themselves to the fact that Verstappen is going to be on the gearbox of Hamilton. But Bottas just needs to control getting off the turns where DRS is available to Verstappen. That's where they need to deploy their energy. This is not about outright lap time now. This is about defensive lap time.
Look at the car that Bottas and Verstappen are coming up to. Charles Leclerc on pole for the last 2 Grand Prix, just hasn't found the balance all weekend long.
So gap still 1 second. Doing a good job. You can see Verstappen starting to struggle with his tyres.
Yeah, Leclerc came in for that additional pit stop, running down in 16th, but running 37.8, which is only a couple of tenths slower than Hamilton. So it will be a little bit of an issue for Verstappen. But meanwhile, his main priority is Bottas ahead, and he's doing a good job of just maintaining the gaps where it counts.
Verstappen closing in. First time that Bottas has had to offer a defence. Can he slow it down? He's deep into the corner to open the door for Max Verstappen, who puts his foot to the floor, and he's got the traction advantage, remember, as he goes up through the gears. Can he take second place in the Grand Prix? It doesn't look like it's going to be a contest into senior corner, and here we go with Verstappen to the inside. Bottas can't hang on, and it's second place for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Bottas passed himself. He just overcooked it into the chicane, and in the end, he would have been better just handing Verstappen the place and saving getting his tyres dirty.
Well, he had to make himself as wide as possible to play the team game, but Verstappen found a way by, and his main rival in the World Championship is just a few seconds up the road now. 5 seconds to make up. If Hamilton's got anything left, he's going to deploy it now. We're into the latter stages of the French Grand Prix. Verstappen hunting down Lewis Hamilton. They're the top two once again. Hamilton in response with his personal best of the Grand Prix so far.
So he's gone defensive on the inside, but he's overcooked the entry speed, gets compromised by running wide before the right-hand part of the chicane, and then it's just a straight acceleration battle. And then he tries to hang it out round the outside of Senior, but all he does is pick up a whole bunch of marbles on his tyres.
Here we see it again, the moment where there's no one between the top two in the World Championship on track. Whilst this was all going on as well, Sebastian Vettel was able to pass Carlos Sainz and get up to 9th position.
Look at that, out on the marbles. But basically what Valtteri's just done, that can be used for driver training or driver racing training and how not to defend.
They needed him to make that car wide. He wasn't able to do so. On this last lap, Verstappen has taken half a second away, but that won't worry Hamilton too much if that remains the rate. The Red Bull catches the Mercedes.
Bunch of traffic ahead of Hamilton though. He's got Tsunoda, Russell, Ocon, and then Verstappen's got Leclerc, Giovinazzi between him and Hamilton. They all have to comply with the blue flags, but it's just a question of do they fall in a good place with the blue flags and you pick up DRS, or is it in a tighter section and you lose time?
26 seconds the gap.
Why the no one listen to me when I said it's going to be a two-stopper? Hell.
Yeah, I think we understand exactly how Valtteri's feeling about his position in the team.
Some of the messages that would have been behind closed doors are now available for everyone to hear.
Yep. It is a fantastic psychological battle between the might of Mercedes and Red Bull Racing. And they're two exceptional race drivers in Hamilton and Verstappen.
Verstappen's got a couple of cars to clear here as well. Charles Leclerc and Antonio Giovinazzi before he gets to the tail. Hamilton is trying to get past the Alpine of Esteban Ocon and George Russell, both of which have links to Toto Wolff, of course. So I can't think they'll be making life too difficult as they get the blue flags. Now the problem for Bottas is that the second Red Bull of Sergio Perez is looming large, and Verstappen trying to close that gap down at the front, but it's the second Red Bull who looks like he's going to be comfortable. Hamilton has been able to keep his tyres in a condition that Bottas simply was not able to do, and now it means the Mexican driver is closing in on the fin.
Yeah, more often than not, we know that Lewis is just a wee bit better than Valtteri. It's not really an opinion, is it? It's factual. In the time as teammates, Lewis is able to do exceptional things with the rubber, and we're going to have to see all of that exceptional behaviour once Verstappen gets on his gearbox.
If Verstappen can get on his gearbox, because we're on lap 47.
Tyres are finished.
Poppy, we understand.
He wasn't joking. Lock up for Valtteri Bottas. He manages to make the corner, but he's basically being persuaded not to say any more on the radio.
Yeah, that relationship's done, isn't it? All of that. That's not just a frustrated racing driver today. That's everything coming out. And when we spoke with Toto ahead of the Grand Prix, he was saying, well, we're it's in Valtteri's hands and we'll give it time and we won't make a decision on the second driver. To me, it's done. George Russell's in that car next year.
he just hit the curb.
Yeah, copy, okay, we'll look at it.
Hamilton has taken those tyres further. He was really concerned about the front left when he was running the medium compound.
So Verstappen's got Ocon in front of him, who's managed by Toto. He's got Russell in front of him, who's managed by Toto, before he can get to Hamilton, who's adored by Toto.
Hamilton pushing. This is why he was on the radio a few moments ago to talk about heavily running over the curb. That's how much pressure the world champion is under. He's got 3.4 seconds. Valtteri Bottas does not have that luxury. Valtteri Bottas has his mirrors full, with the driver we're now on board with. He's got quite a bit of degradation as well. He's able to take those hard tyres further at the moment. They are 7 laps fresher than the Mercedes driver ahead.
Now, Ocon has been overtaken by Verstappen.
3.6.
Okay, just leave me to it.
Copy.
You can hear how breathless Lewis Hamilton is, trying to extract all of the performance with 30-lap-old hard tyres. And they didn't go to a two-stopper. Who got it right? Was it the Red Bull pit wall? Was it the Mercedes pit wall? Will the drivers be able to make the difference? It's going to come down surely to the final lap.
Now, both strategies are working so far in terms of total time of the Grand Prix. But these final 3 laps are really going to tell us one thing: catching Hamilton. Does Verstappen have enough to pass him?
Word for Lance Stroll, final point scorer at the moment in 10th, up 9 places from his starting position. Here is Perez. Now this time, can Bottas make the corner? He can. And now, with the traction difference, Bottas swanning all over the road, trying to make that Mercedes as wide as possible. But now it's a difference in traction. Out of the slipstream for Sergio Perez, and onto the podium with a move around the outside.
Yeah, Valtteri did a much better job of defending the exit of the chicane, but in the end, Red Bull set up for straight line speed. With a slipstream, there was nothing he could do.
Just a question of whether Perez kept all 4 wheels on the racetrack. He was heavily over the curb there, but I'm sure he did. And it's a Red Bull 2-3. That is not the result that they wanted. Hamilton still has 2.6 seconds. Last time they cut the beam, it's a 38.1 for Hamilton, a 37.4 for Verstappen.
Yeah, that slipstream and the straight line speed advantage of the Red Bull, just too much for Valtteri. And this is how it looks from Valtteri's on board. He covers off the inside. Perez has to then commit to the outside, but the move was done before they got to Senior.
Here is the race leader going back ahead of his rival into the lead of the World Championship as it stands. We might only have a few laps to go, but they are pivotal laps in this toing and froing World Championship.
Okay, Max, that's your man ahead. 4 laps remaining.
This is closer than it ever looked like it was going to be a few laps ago, isn't it, David?
Yeah, it's been a brilliant Grand Prix as far as I'm concerned. The battle, the pressure on the 2 main teams here, the pressure on the drivers, it's just exceptional. Hamilton has the experience. Does he have the grip to defend against Verstappen?
Verstappen will know psychologically how important this is. Forget about the points. It's just about who is working best with their team, who is able to make the audacious strategy work. 2 stops is not what we expected at the start of the Grand Prix. That's what Verstappen's trying to make work. Hamilton is trying to carry these tyres a ridiculous way into the Grand Prix and pull off what looked like, at the end of the first stop, an unlikely Grand Prix victory.
Yeah, some marking on the front right of Verstappen's tyres, so they've definitely gone over the top in performance. Let's look at lap times. 37.9 for Hamilton, 36.9 Verstappen, full second quicker. Should be at the end of this lap. He should be in the DRS zone.
And then it's all going to be about the traction out of turn 6 onto the Mistral Straight to the North Chicane, which seems to be the best overtaking opportunity. Hamilton is confident on the brakes there, goes slightly deeper.
Okay, last lap for Lewis, 37.9. Gap is at 1.6. I'll lead you to it. 3 laps to go.
No more chatter on the radio, just the two best drivers in the world going wheel to wheel. This World Championship once again delivering. This is race 7, and we've had Max Verstappen take 2 victories. We've had Lewis Hamilton take 3 victories. And who's coming out on top in this one?
Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to find out.
So now within DRS, which is going to be worth so much, but Hamilton is not going to allow Verstappen by easily. If he's got anything to defend, he's going to force him onto the marbles, off the racing line, into the North Chicane.
Front right, heavily blistered, you can see on Verstappen, a lot of long corners. But crucially, where he has to launch out into DRS zones, it comes off a right-hander, so he's leaning on the front left.
Lap 52 of 53, the world champion leading the man who wants to replace him with that title. Fresher tyres for Verstappen, DRS open. What can Lewis Hamilton do under enormous pressure after he took the lead? And remember, Sergio Perez looked like he was very close to being off the road with that pass on Valtteri Bottas. He's under investigation for that moment coming through into La Beauce corner.
Another key opportunity here for Max to get onto the gearbox of Lewis. Does he get a better drive off the corner? Lewis will deploy all of his electrical energy that he can to try and break the slipstream.
Let's see what it's like on board. Here comes Max Verstappen for the lead of the Grand Prix. He's going to have his first opportunity to get there. And Max Verstappen gets to the inside and passes Lewis Hamilton to take the lead of the French Grand Prix.
Well, it's much quicker than I thought it was going to be. Hamilton maybe could have defended the inside a little bit more aggressively, but Verstappen, once he picked up that slipstream, the setup of the Red Bull, exploiting the DRS perfectly, and well, we now have our answer. What strategy was right? The 2-stop.
On the penultimate lap of the race, Max Verstappen with the move that takes him back into the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Hamilton carrying those tyres 32 laps, but crucially, just falling short. And this is how Max Verstappen took first place in the race. To give his team potentially their first hat-trick of wins, 3 in a row in the hybrid era.
Simply lovely. Come on, mate.
And whilst it might have been simple by the time they got to the North Chicane, Verstappen has been working for this entire stint to back up his team's strategic call. And in the end, they are going to finish in the order that they started. What a heroic effort from Lewis Hamilton, and what a response from the World Championship leader. It's going to remain Max Verstappen.
Yeah, when it looked like Verstappen was the one that cracked under pressure on the run to the first corner. And what a yo-yo seesaw of performance and emotions. But in the end, this just further cements the fact that Red Bull really do have a car that is going to make that man's championship aspirations extremely difficult.
Sergio Perez, crucially now, over 5 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas if he did get a 5-second penalty for overtaking off the road. So that is a gap worth monitoring. But what a moment for Max Verstappen, who is going to bring his Red Bull through. David, how impressive was that stint to close up on the world champion?
It was Hamilton-esque, but that is what we've been saying. Verstappen, for Lewis, it's like looking in the mirror in terms of performance. These two guys are exceptional racing drivers, but it's advantage Verstappen today.
Max Verstappen wins the French Grand Prix with a superb drive to overhaul Lewis Hamilton, who comes home in second, and it's championship advantage extended for the Dutch driver, who's won in Le Castellet And Sergio Perez has come home in third place, crucially 5 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who ran out of tyres. It will then be Norris and Ricciardo, Gasly, Alonso, Vettel and Stroll completing the points. But it's Red Bull with their third win in a row for the first time in the turbo hybrid era. You've got to go back to 2013 for the last time that happened. What a performance from Max Verstappen, who has made up for the disappointment of Baku and taken the win. They are still racing behind with Fernando Alonso, who has closed in on Gasly, but they will come across the line in that order. I don't think Alonso's close enough to throw one to the inside at turn 15. And Gasly just defending that by hugging the apex. So a step forward for Ricciardo, but he's still 11 seconds behind his teammate at the flag. He's getting more comfortable. He's 6th, Gasly 7th, Alonso 8th, and then the 2 Aston Martins behind, running long on the hard tyre to start the race. But it's Max Verstappen's day, his 3rd win of the Formula 1 season.
Mate, it is sweet being the hunter. You won that race. Excellent job.
What a strategy, guys. Amazing. Well done, mate. Payback. Well done. Great job. Great job. I hope you guys can hear me, but what a race, man. Thank you so much. So good.
The high of success, and then if you look further down, Alex, we've got both Ferraris out at the points. Ouch.
A shocking day for them, considering they have been resurgent, considering they've been on pole position a couple of times this year, just not with the tyre life that they needed today. Sainz in 11th, Charles Leclerc in 16th position. And it will need to be a 10-second penalty to take Perez off the podium, his 2nd consecutive podium with Red Bull. So no further action for that overtake. He kept all 4 wheels on the road.
Okay, Lewis, well done, mate. So that's P2. So we'll have a look at what happened at that stop. But yeah, real great job. Just trying to get that tyre to the end. Nearly at it.
I did tell you this morning I'll repace.
No, Lewis, this one's on us. Thank you for doing everything you could to recover that race. You drove incredibly well.
So good, man. We did our best. Still got good points.
So Hamilton saying not too much that could have been done, but he pointed out that he did not want the strategy that he ended up with. Verstappen in the end, though, voted driver of the day, took the bonus point for fastest lap as well. Mercedes had a window to bring Bottas in and take away that extra point. So it's an absolute maximum. 26 to the account of the race winner, who is drinking in that moment in front of the fans.
Yeah, that is a nice image for Red Bull, and a sobering conversation between James Vowles and Lewis Hamilton. But you've got to admire James owning it, saying, this one's on us, Lewis.
the wind. The first 5-10 laps, yeah. So we just broke into. Did you go to penalty? No. I could barely keep the car under control. Yeah, 1 second. Sweet. That was good. Brad.
Well, the crowd have been treated to a fantastic Grand Prix, resolved in the final couple of laps. Let's hear now from the top three. They're down in Parc Fermé, speaking to Martin Brundle.
Congratulations, Max. That was a wonderful race. You versus the two Mercedes in particular. Did you enjoy that as much as we did?
Towards the end, yes. In the beginning, it was super difficult out there with the wind. So one lap you had an okay balance, and then the next lap you were just sliding everywhere. So really difficult to keep the car stable. And yeah, I think once we made the first pit stop, then you could clearly see them on the hard tires. They were pushing me hard from behind. But then when we made the call to do a two-stop, yeah, luckily at the end that paid off. But we had to work hard for it. But yeah, of course, very rewarding.
Was there a point towards the end where you thought, I'm not sure I'm going to catch him?
It's difficult because there's quite a lot of back markers to go through. But luckily they all did well, and yeah, we could have a good fight to the end.
And what happened in the first corner?
We just lost the rear, so just tried to correct it, but it just kept going. So
this is a big statement for you to beat the Mercedes here in terms of the championship the rest of the season.
As you can see, the whole race we were fighting each other, so I think it will be like this for the rest of the season.
Well done. Second place, Lewis, you did your best. Somehow you were finding some speed and some pace out of those tyres towards the end, but it wasn't quite enough.
No. Congrats to Max. He did a great job today. They just had the better power, strength all weekend, and I think just considering that we had such a difficult Friday, I'm really happy with today's result. I mean, of course we didn't win and we were in the lead, but I had no tyres left at the end, so yeah, unfortunately lost the position, but still, it was a good race.
It was a great race to watch. You two head to head. If that's what we're going to see this season, it's going to be one of the all-time great seasons.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to find some pace, that's for sure. You've seen that most of the time we lost today was just on the straights, so we've got to definitely dig deep, try and figure out where that is, and whether it's power or drag. But you know, we've still got a good package, and I'm not really sure how we lost position today, because
the undercut was hugely powerful.
Oh, I'm sure so.
Yeah. Really powerful. So
yeah.
You know,
well, we didn't know how strong that was going to be or not. But what was really surprising is just to run out of that front tire so early on. But obviously they had a good strategy and it worked really well for them.
So when Max pitted for the second time, what were your thoughts then? We need to come in, or?
No, I mean, he was already quite far ahead, so the only option I really had was to stay out. Otherwise, I would be pitting. Because he's again undercutting me, so he would just come out ahead, and I wouldn't be able to pass. They're too quick on the straights. So the only option was to stay out as long as possible and hope the tyres holds together.
Well, they didn't, but you live for another day. Next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done.
Cheers.
Another podium, Sergio. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So a bit steady at the start. You kept your tyres well, went long, and it played out beautifully.
Yeah, it paid out. You know, it was important to stay within the leaders. The first 5 to 10 laps, the car was pretty much undrivable with the wind. We obviously ran less downforce today, so it was pretty hard to keep up behind. But then, probably as the wind was getting calmer and the track was getting better, I started to pick up my rhythm. We managed to go quite long on the first stint, and I think that really paid off towards the end. I think the deck was quite a lot higher than expected today. So yeah, I think as a whole we did a great race, great strategy from the team, and I'm happy that we won the race today, and good points for the team.
You've answered all my questions. Well done again.
With this kind of win.
Otherwise, you don't know that. You leave time tomorrow.
Max Verstappen, I know you've been struggling with your radio throughout the race, but congratulations on the race win. You are also the driver of the day. Huge congratulations.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you to the fans. Not even out there, but thank you for voting. I hope everyone enjoyed that race.
That move was absolutely brilliant. You left it right to the last minute, but enjoy the celebrations and congratulations once again. You're driver of the day.
Thank you very much.
Well, it was a fantastic race, and it's time to get the podium celebrations underway. For the first time in 2021, we're going to have two Red Bulls on the podium, starting with Sergio Perez, the second consecutive podium finish for his new team. After waiting for 6 races, he's now been once again on the rostrum for the second contest in a row. Lewis Hamilton got to the penultimate lap in the lead of the Grand Prix, but it wasn't quite enough despite a heroic effort to keep this man behind. Max Verstappen with his 13th Grand Prix victory, his 3rd of the year, which extends his championship advantage. It is never going to be an easy win when you're up against Lewis Hamilton, but one of the most distinctive trophies in Formula One belongs to the Dutch driver. A fantastic performance. And how many times do we hear this man, Giampiero Lamberzi, on the radio time and time again, saying simply lovely when Max Verstappen crossed the line, and he's the team representative on the podium. Lewis Hamilton getting a warm reception as well from the crowd and his team after an audacious stint. He's on the podium, Lewis Hamilton, for the 170th time in Formula One. Consecutive podiums for Sergio Perez. And they've earned a sip of this. Some brilliant stints at the front. Classic tyre saving from Sergio Perez. But this heavyweight World Championship fight is quite clearly going the distance. It's extra points for Max Verstappen today. It's Red Bull's day. But Lewis Hamilton quite clearly is not going to make it easy at any point. Very nearly denying them, but not quite. And here's how that result leaves the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen on 131 points, extending his advantage over Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez in third. Another strong day for Lando Norris leaves him still ahead of Valtteri Bottas in the championship. No points for Ferrari. It's Leclerc, Sainz, then Gasly, Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel rounding out the top 10. Fernando Alonso with another points finish for Alpine, ahead of Ocon in the championship still. Good run through the field, up 9 places for Lance Stroll, he's 13th, and then we've got Tsunoda, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, the last of the drivers to score. Red Bull with a sizable advantage over Mercedes, considering it is race 7. McLaren having a good day with Ferrari not scoring. Gasly provided more points for AlphaTauri. Both Aston Martins in the points, leaves them in 6th place. Then it's Alpine, Alfa Romeo, and that 12th place from George Russell moves Williams above Haas, despite the fact that neither team have scored points.
The 2021 season delivers once again. I think we can file that race under nail biter. If you were inclined to watch that again, and why wouldn't you, the whole glorious weekend is on all four for the next 7 days. Let's take a quick one. On the other side, Max joins us, as does Toto Wolff and Daniel Ricciardo. Guess which one won't be smiling? Don't go anywhere.